Hello everyone, it's been a long time since I've recorded a video, but I decided to check out a detective game that I found on itch.io called StillWater. So let's jump in. This is a work of fiction. The resemblance to any real-life people is purely coincidental. This game depicts horror, mature themes, violence, strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm sorry, but I can't stay here anymore, Nanny. I feel like I'm going crazy. Calm down. If we just talk it out. So many strange things keep happening, one after another. Every day, there is this damn dripping sound. I thought it was just something leaking at first, but I check every faucet, every ceiling, everything, and still, I hear it everywhere, constantly echoing in my ears. Please listen to me. Oh, but the water, that damn water. Water? Yes, it's everywhere. Pools of it are all over the house. Every time I try to mop it all up, another will appear. There's no end to it. Ah, but it's at night. It's at night when it comes. What are you talking about? I hear someone or something walking along the hallways at night. Maybe it's just my grandfather. No, Nina, it's not him. I thought it was, but it's not. But I've seen it, that thing. I only glimpsed at it once, but I'm more than certain that thing was not your grandfather. Ever since that night, I would lock my door and pray it would walk past my room. I don't know what's going on, but I swear it just keeps walking. Always walking on pools of water. Sometimes I hear them, randomly. Their steps are erratic and faint, but I can hear them. Just a steady pace, up and down the halls. But I think recently, it's no longer like that. What do you mean? Every morning, I follow to see where the wet footprints lead. It walks towards something more clearly than before. It would walk down the halls, climb the stairs, and turn corners. All of it I'd follow. Eventually, the trails would come to a stop, and it would stop right by your grandfather's old room. His room? Is this some kind of sick joke to scare me away? Then please stop. It's not a joke, Nina. I meant what I said. There is something wicked going on in this house. That can't be true. I know this is a lot, but you have to believe me. I can't stay here any longer. I'm sorry, Nina. It's okay. I understand. Thank you for taking care of my grandfather up until now, and I'm sorry for all the stress I've caused you. I'll be sure to pay you right away as soon as I. Nina, listen to me. I don't know what's happening around here, but. The woman cautiously looks around, turning her head constantly back and forth, looking over her shoulder to find if any others are listening in. She grips the phone so close to her ear in a vice grip before speaking again in a hushed tone. There's something lurking in this house. I don't know what it is, but please, as soon as you get back, take your grandfather and leave this place. Leave? I can't just leave everything behind. We have nowhere else to go. Please, Nina, this place is not safe. The rumors, they're true. The curse is real. My family is not cursed. But Nina, at this rate, you and your family will. Enough! A pause. A cold, sharp tenseness strains the call as both women, exhausted and stressed beyond their comfort, try to stifle the growing frustrations towards one another, neither yielding to the other's thoughts, only leaving anger and hurt to fester through the silence. After what feels like a suffocating stillness, Nina finally sighs heavily and responds bluntly to the caretaker. Look, I don't know what you heard or saw, but I can't just leave things like this. Whoever or whatever they are, they will answer to me. I won't let them have their way. I don't have time to be wasting energy on this stupid curse. So if you can't help me, then so be it. I'll find a way. Nina. My grandfather is all I have left. He is all I have left. Diner, 7 a.m. Amidst a foggy morning, there sits a man by the corner of a booth. He drinks black coffee, depending on his mood, occasionally orders a donut, and today it was just black coffee. Ugh, I swear, I've never seen that amount of paperwork in my life, a freaking mountain's worth of it. You're a valuable member of our team, Hugo. My foot. I'm starting to believe that I was bamboozled into joining their agency. Ugh. Hugo, age 30, takes a look at his cup of joe and chugs it all in one sitting, then continues to grumble to himself about last night's grueling work at the office. I really need to find a different job. As he contemplates his poor life choices, he looks towards the early mist. There was something inherently terrifying about the fog to him, how it engulfs everything and nothing. Even if it disappears, it always leaves behind a trace, proof of its remaining. Even in a quaint little town like this, I can't even run from my fate, I guess. Hugo finally stares at the compiled newspaper clippings he put together. Some of them from recent events, but mainly all were from past headlines of missing person cases. No matter how many times I see this, it's just as hard to look at. Fixating case after case, he can't help but remind himself that there is a reason for all of this. An all too personal reason. Seeing strange things comes with a price. In the end, I'm the one doing this to myself. Rough! Mind if I join you, Kuza? An annoying familiar voice interrupts his train of thought. He slowly looks up to see the one responsible, although reluctantly. Good morning, Hugo. Hugo scowls and turns away from him. Then he gathers the files and shoves them into his binder. Meanwhile, the tall man takes this as initiative and sits at the opposite end of the booth. He greets the waitress passing by and orders himself the hefty bodies breakfast special with an extra plate. As usual, the waitress is happy to oblige and goes to the back corner to relay his order. The man then looks at Hugo. He sees an empty cup and the now jumbled newspaper clippings, all the while Hugo is trying to ignore him. You really should eat something with that black coffee. Not ordering donuts today. I'm fine, Noah. I'm just not in the mood, okay? Not even a little. There is a momentary silence between them before Noah disturbs it once more. Well, too bad for you. I ordered a big breakfast for the two of us. Two? As if the world could grace Noah with an even more perfect punchline, the food arrives. Why the hell did you order food for the two of us? Just eat what you want to eat. Don't worry about me. Wow. Right, Hugo? Are you even listening to me? Come on. We both know that if you don't eat now, who knows when you will. And I'm not about to let you faint again. So open wide. Noah D. Logan, age 27, a natural-born charmer, is also the only person in the world who lovingly threatens to eat him to eat every day. With a pessimistic look, Hugo finally gives in and eats the generous spoonful without further complaints. It's good. Right? Good food will help you cheer up. Damn him, I got swept away again. Oh, by the way, the chief will be out for a couple days on a business trip. She mentioned it will be for a couple days. When did she tell you this? I didn't hear anything about it. Yesterday, I think. Yesterday. She told me to sort out the cabinets yesterday. She didn't mention anything about a business trip. Guess it was a pretty sudden one. Well, I mean, she did tell me to tell you. And lucky me, I know where you go every morning. You know what? I'm not even surprised anymore. Well, what do you want to do? We technically have the day off. I'm gonna head back to the office. There's a couple of boxes I didn't get a chance to sort out. In that case, I'm coming with you. Why? You could just rest for the day. And pass up the opportunity to get to know you better, Kuya? Quit it. After enlightening banter, the two of them finish their breakfast and pay for their meals and head out to Hugo's car. As Noah opens the door to the passenger seat, he notices a bloodhound sleeping inside. The big dog stirs at the sound of the opening car and lazily stares at Noah. Ah, sorry, big guy. He closes the door while trying not to make too much noise to disturb its occupant, Kobe. At the sound of his name, his heavy-lidded eyes peek to see who calls for him. It is his one and only partner. He's human. As if finally realizing who he is or where he is, the old bloodhound stirs from his sleep, pounces at Hugo, and proceeds to wag its tail uncontrollably. Good morning, Kobe. Have a nice nap. Kobe, 8 years old, Hugo's most faithful and loving partner in crime, has the biggest tendency to sleep all over the place. Noah, who is witnessing all this from the back seat, chuckles to himself. He is amazed and slightly defeated at Hugo's sudden surge of energy. Doesn't matter how many times I try. When it comes to boosting up his mood, no one can beat Kobe. Agency, 7:50 a.m. The three head back to the office. The space is just the same as Hugo left it, a decent organized mess. To his credit, for the amount of boxes he painstakingly went through, he believes he did a fair job, albeit it could have been better. Wow, you really outdid yourself, Hugo. It looks less crowded? Aw, shut it, will you? I said I was gonna get to it. Thanks, boy. Before Hugo could continue to give deserved head pats, he notices someone, a woman standing timidly, peering outside from the storefront. She looks a bit frantic, and even more restless with her disheveled and ill-fitted clothes, drawing emphasis to her already too visible petite frame. The woman tries to grasp the door handle several times, but stops before she can touch it. Her brows furrow, agitated and distressed about something. So much to point it's preventing her from simply reaching out for help. However, when she finally makes eye contact with Hugo, she immediately rushes in. I'm sorry. I know that the close sign is up, but I saw you. Command and I. Are you alright, miss? I need your help. My grandfather, he. Before she can explain, Noah swiftly cuts in front of Hugo and intervenes, in all too practiced manner. It's okay, miss. We'll hear what you have to say. So please, why don't you sit right over there? Noah gestures to one of the empty seats at the other side of the office. The poor woman hesitates for a moment. She clutches desperately to the strap of her purse, her eyes focusing apprehensively on them and the gestured seat. After mulling it over, Noah offers, and she quickly glances back and nods. The woman walks to the corner of the room and sits on the edge of the sofa. Her posture is weary and tense, giving no sign of comfort or even this brief moment of peace. Can you start off by telling us your name? I apologize for earlier. I'm usually a bit more composed than this, but I guess I'm feeling at that too. My name is Nina Mortar. Ah, hello, Miss Nina. My name is Noah D. Leon. I'm one of the assistants here. This big guy next to you is our lovely assistant Kobe. And this other one brooding over here is private investigator Hugo Laurent. I'm not brooding, I'm just tired. And our chief is away on business, but I think we can still accommodate you. So how can we help you, Miss Nita? For a moment, Nina appeared to be a bit more relaxed, more hopeful, maybe even more relieved from this warm welcome. However, once again she tenses up, the guilt and shame rushing back to her face visible by the creases of her brow, as she once again realizes why she's here. I need help watching over my grandfather tonight. Tonight? Yes, I know this is a strange request, but my hands are tied on this. It has to be tonight. I'm sorry, Miss Nina, but I don't quite understand. Is your grandfather in any danger? I think someone is trying to take him away. Take him? Miss Nina, I should think you should contact the police right away. They are far more equipped at handling this kind of situation. No, they're not! I've tried requesting their help, but they give me the same answer verbatim for weeks now. that they would send someone to watch over the manor for the entire day, but by the end of their routine, they would always report back nothing unusual. They say no one else leaving or arriving at the house other than me or the caretaker. And despite me telling them in detail about the letters and all the strange things that have been happening, there's nothing they can do about it but just sit around until it escalates more. I can't wait any longer. Any more of this, and I'll be too late. If only if I knew someone. Only if I knew who Lewis was. Lewis? She lets out a gasp. Her hands shot out to cover her mouth, realizing she had said too much so carelessly. She tries to avert her gaze, but Hugo stares persistently at her. Miss Nina, who is Lewis? Are they the ones causing all of this? Once more, she contemplates, her brows knit closely together as she bites her lips nervously. It's as if the words she wanted to say have suddenly died out, too heavy to even utter, a mistake she can't take back. Before the silence stretches further, Noah speaks to Nina with a gentle, reassuring tone. Miss Nina, I know it's scary. Of all the things you have mentioned to us so far, no one should have to experience, especially by themselves. I assure you, we'll listen to all of it, I promise. Wild and manic eyes search deeply at them, trying desperately to discern any doubts or mistrust on their faces. However, all she sees are the people willing to give their time and simply listen to her, to actually help her. From this alone, Nina looks to the side where her purse is and opens it. Tucked inside one of the pockets, she takes out a single slightly crumpled envelope with a pigment red wax seal pressed into the middle. At a glance, Hugo can tell right away that the letter appears to be a bit more worn and antique, and yet its delicate form remains well preserved and well kept. It's as if the letter itself was untouched by time forever, waiting to be opened. Grandfather has been receiving cryptic letters for this past month now. The letters didn't come with an address or a name of a sender. But this one is different than the rest. This one had the name Lewis on it. As she hands over the letter, Hugo notices her hands shaking. Nina's avoiding his gaze, but he knows she is trying in earnest. Before he could reach out his hand, he senses it, a faint shift in the room, unnoticeable to the others, but all too glaringly clear to him. There is something very wrong with this letter. Suddenly, Hugo recoils, his hand away in pain, like being struck with something sharp, so spontaneous, so memorable, that even if the pain disappears with seconds, a hint of it still remains. Something so akin to a prick from a rose thorn, or more like a paper cut. Are you alright? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. No, I'm fine, Miss Mortimer. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Hugo stares at the cut. A thin red line starts to form slowly by the top of his index finger, trailing down and stopping just above the first crease. A red so clearly visible, it's taunting. That doesn't look like a normal paper cut to me. Let me get you a band-aid. It's fine, Noah. I don't need one. But really, it's fine. It doesn't even hurt that much. Noah takes a good look at him before sighing exasperatedly and sitting back down in his chair, still eyeing Hugo's hand. Hugo shrugs and returns his attention back to the letter, but this time, luckily nothing happens. For it to reach all the way out here with just one letter alone is truly terrifying. Carefully, he removes the contents of the envelope and unfolds it. At first, it looks like any other normal written message. A person named Lewis is asking the other Henry to come meet him at the lake at midnight, needing to share something important with him. However, what's eerily striking about this is not the letter itself. Peering at the bottom of the page, a message scrawled unlike the rest stands visibly out to Hugo, a message that shouldn't be there. Remember our promise, Henry. When did you receive this letter? Yesterday. And your grandfather, where is he now? He's currently back at the house with the caretaker. I promised I wouldn't be out for too long. I made an agreement with them, you see? Oh? What sort of agreement? The caretaker We have agreed to watch over grandfather, but only during the day. Before nightfall, they would leave exactly at the same time. Before nightfall? I wanted to believe that this whole thing was an elaborate scheme to scare the family away. I know it sounds crazy, but at one point, I thought everyone was in on it. The mail carriers, the officers, the caretakers, everyone had a hand at making our family suffer. But this one was different. Up until now, I've never heard anyone by that name. Not a relative or family friend. But clearly, know who grandfather is. If I don't do something about this, I'll lose him too. Just by uttering the words alone, Nina begins to break down. The stress, the anxiety, the fatigue of it all was catching up to her. Her body hunches forward, her hands pressed close to her eyes. She tries to cover the streams of tears down her face. As an act to comfort her, Kobe stands closer to Nina while Noah fetches her tissues. Hugo, on the other hand, is puzzled. She said this whole thing has been going on for the past month, but something doesn't add up. And before nightfall, I think there is something more she is not admitting. What happened with the letter? I am more than certain that whoever or whatever Lewis is, they're coming for blood. Oh, interesting, we have choices. I suppose I'll make a save. I feel like rejecting the case is an easy way to an ending, so we'll start there. Hugo casts his face downward to stare directly at the ground in front of him, unable to look at Nina. The burden, the solitude, the madness, Hugo knows it all too intimately. He suffers the same conflicts that weigh heavily on her mind. And yet, in spite of this, it is too much for him. Like walking along a tightrope with the ground void and unclear, vast and empty and dark. So very, very dark. No, I can still do it. We can still do this. Before he can respond, a distant voice so charming, so terribly commanding, finds him at his spot. It's already too late for them, you know. Why isn't this menu going away? Go away. No, not here. A dull, but yet distinct pulsating sound so rhythmic in tune starts its maddening melody. From the top, his crown drowned to the base of his skull, he feels the all-present and daunting. Just let it go. Let me help you. No, I can do it if you would just let me. Snake-like hands wrap around his head so closely, squeezing ever so tightly that he can't help but shut his eyes from the pain. Such a kind person you are, Hugo. Hugo tries to ground himself. He tries to remind himself to breathe. A sweet and beloved friend. To remember, there are other people that care for him. The joy and warmth of their company. I wish you could have done the same for me. To remember that he is present, that he is useless. Hugo! Hey, what's wrong? Tugging at Hugo's coat, Noah tries to catch his attention, but fails as he notices something amiss. Hugo! There is a despondent look in Hugo's face, his eyes distinctly shrouded by a deep haze as if lost in them. He won't budge. No matter how many times Noah tries to tug or shake him, he will not respond. But for Hugo, he can hear everything. Like paralysis, he can't wake him from his body. It just sits there motionless and detached from everything. Desperate and concerned, Noah turns to Nina and ushers a sincere apology. I'm sorry, miss, but I don't think we can help you at the moment. If you would just come back at a later time, then we can... No, it's fine. There won't be a next time. Hugo winces at her cold, blunt remark. No, Miss Mortimer, please! Nina stands and abruptly from her seat, wipes away the tears from her quickly reddened face with her sleeves of her coat and looks down. Once more, her tense, cold front-like demeanor returns to the forefront. already trying to forget and move on. Without so much as a word, she slightly bows her head and walks out of the office, not once looking back. Bad ending. Pulling strings. Interesting. So let's load and we'll take the case this time. Do you want more tissues? We'll do it. We'll take on your case. For a moment, everything goes still. Their eyes and attention are solemnly directed at Hugo, whose eyes have a certain glint to them, now unwavering and more determined than ever. Before anyone else speaks, Nina stands up, wipes away the stray tears from her face, and walks up to him. You'll take it? Hugo nods. Thank you. Thank you. You don't know how much this means to me. We're glad to help, miss. Nina, please just call me Nina. Well, Nina, we'll do our best. Nina smiles at Hugo and Noah in gratitude. Her eyes renew with a faint gleam, a hope that maybe things will change for her and her family for the better. However, before heading out, Nina reaches into her bag once more. She takes out a small piece of paper and a pen and hastily starts jotting down something. 4970 Church Street. I best be on my way now. I'll let my grandfather know ahead of time that you'll be coming. Also, this is my address. I'll be sure to greet you when you arrive. And thank you again, truly. She bows to them and walks out of the office, already reaching into her purse for her car keys. Hugo watches from the desk as she goes to open the driver's seat. Nina looks back at the office window and takes one last look at Hugo. She waves slightly at him before finally pulling out of the parking lot and driving off. Once out of sight, Hugo turns to look at his cluttered desk, still messy but presentable. I guess I'll have to sort these out later, again. Car, 5:30 p.m. From the ongoing downpour to the quiet hums of the car, they sit in silence. Still miles off the destination, Hugo constantly checks the rearview mirror to see any passing cars, but it was only them on the road. Noah, who usually chats his ear off by now, leans quietly against the car door as he looks out to the passing streets, reserved and distant. He hasn't said a word to Hugo since they left the office. Hey, you're a lot quieter than usual. What's wrong? Ha, what a surprise. Have you been looking at Mikuya? No, you idiot. You usually just talk a lot more, that's all. So, you miss me talking? Just say it. Do you believe her story? What? Given all the things she's told us, do you think she is telling the truth? Yes, I believe her, or at least, I believe she hasn't lied to us. But I can't shake this feeling that she's hiding something. Like, if she left out certain details on purpose. Also, why did she have to travel this far out of town for a private eye? Surely there must have been another far closer to harm than ours. I just don't know how to explain it. As expected of you, Hugo. Are you making fun of me? No, not at all. I'm just admiring your observations. I didn't want to offend Nina earlier, so I kept quiet until she finished. But her last name caught me off guard. Have you heard about the Mortimers? They're a pretty distinguished family that owned an esteemed fishing company. Well, they used to, I believe. They have yet to name their heir. What do you mean? Shouldn't it go to Nina? It should, but I don't know. From what I heard, each time they try to name a successor, that relative mysteriously disappears. Gone without a trace, or anyone thought. Their bodies would soon turn up months after. And it's strange. All of them have been labeled as accidents by local news. No foul play, just another unfortunate loss for the family. They've been struck with so many tragedies that over time people began to believe they were cursed or something. Cursed. I think I can understand why she wouldn't go to the police again. They most likely thought she was seeing things and went along with the procedures just to keep a face. But deep down, they must have thought she had gone mad. I can't imagine all of this for Nina. Most of all, who knows what we'll find there? Is that why you decided to come along with me? Well, not particularly. I'm more worried about you, though. Me? Why? Think of it this way. I'm the appointed driver. When you decide to do something pretty reckless, I'll be there to drive you to the local hospital. Ugh, it's better two than one. Exactly. I was fine with Kobe coming along with me. Well, you heard that three is better than two. Ugh. Mortimer Estate, 6 p.m. Passing through the countless dirt roads and steep cliffs, the estate can finally be seen by the Evergain. Nestled away from prying eyes, it stands magnificent and classic, truly a rarity that can only be afforded by privilege, and yet, with all of its opulence, it looms from a distance. Hugo and Noah could only gaze at the sheer scale of the manor. Its grand structure topples easily over the dozens of houses they drove past. Wow, look at the size of it. Could never imagine seeing a house like this in person. It's almost too surreal. Come on, she's waiting for us. Immediately after exiting the driver's seat, a sudden sharp pain weighs on Hugo's chest. Grasping tightly at his coat, he begins to gasp for air. His vision hazes as he leans close to the car, trying desperately to ground himself. Like a fish drowned out of the sea, he desperately heaves. The air in his lungs escaping too quickly, it burns as he feels the throat start to strain, drawing tighter the more he breathes. The pain pales in comparison to a feeling far more excruciating. Is it the house? No, something far more sinister. He feels it. Someone is watching him, a piercing gaze fixed at him like leering at a bug and waiting to strike. We will be together soon, Henry. What the hell? Damn it already! I need to hurry or else. Hey, you alright? Noah calls out to him, snapping at him out of his fixed trance. Kobe nudges his head against Hugo, whining with concern over his partner's well-being. Did, did you hear that just now? Hear what? That voice. It was close to my ear. Is everything alright? Oh, I'm fine. Don't mind me. I'm just a bit winded from the trip, that's all. I'd be happy to make you some tea at the very least, if it's no trouble. No, not at all. It's the least I can do. Once again, the subtle uneasiness from Nina surfaces. Before Hugo could get a chance to look further into it, she walked off towards the front porch without saying another word. Are you sure you're alright? You sounded like you were choking earlier. I said I'm fine. Besides, we're already here. We can't back out now. Listen, I think you should... Noah abruptly cuts his lecture short as he notices Nina stopping by the front door. She stands by the door silently contemplating something. It's just like before, but this time she seems even more anxious. Whatever unease she tried to mask earlier became more apparent the minute they walked close to the front door. I haven't been quite honest with you, Detective. Just like before, as if she is choosing her next words, she decides that in this situation words are not enough. You'll see what I mean for yourselves. And with that, Nina enters the house, leaving the three to follow behind. Hugo is about to enter the foyer when he feels something tug on his arm. Don't forget what I told you. If something happens, let me know right away. You'll be the first to know. And with that, Noah releases his grip on Hugo. They proceed to head in, not knowing what awaits them beyond the door. Greeted with a brightly lit hallway, Hugo immediately notes that the interior is just as grand. Adorned by four adjacent and antique furnishings, the house itself excludes the word elegance. A classic rustic charm with the walls and floorings made from the finest wood. Hugo couldn't help but gape when he walked in. However, he notices something even more distinct in the splendor. Behind the seemingly perfect veneer, an unsettling air breathes through the house, leaving no room for doubt that inside is far more terrifying than outside. Please, come this way. Bracing themselves, they entered the dimly lit drawing room. At first, you could not discern the silhouette situation at the far corner. Only The sparse lighting from the window pierces through a fraction of the room's darkness. However, as they approach to the silhouette, Hugo now understands the reason for all of Nina's unsettling vagueness. Grandfather, we have guests. Sitting on the armchair is a very young man, not much older than Hugo or Noah. He is dressed modestly and shares none of the imposing presence of the manor. No, rather, such luxury does not even remotely reflect on a man before them at all. It is as if the flow of time had stopped only for him had continued while the rest had continued changing drastically without him, just like the letter, timeless, delicate, and jarringly out of place. Staring at the window, the young man sits there dazed with little acknowledgement of the people around him, still, motionless, like a doll. Grandpa, these are the people I spoke of. This is Detective Laurent and his two assistants, Kobe and Noah. They're going to help us. Even after introducing them to the head of the Multimo estate, Hugo and Noah could not help but feel unnerved. The man before them is supposed to be frail and older than any of them, and yet he remains forever unchanging, forever young. They've come a long way, so I'll be making some tea. Would you like some, Grandpa? He does not reply back, nor does he glance at Nina or anyone else in the room, only fixates his gaze on the rain, nothing else. I'll be sure to make a cup for you too. She then timidly gestures towards Hugo and Noah back to the foyer. Bearing more questions, the two follow Nina outside. But before they could leave the drawing room, Hugo takes one last look at the young man. There is an all too familiar air about Henry Mortimer. His eyes, they're similar to his own. Whatever he must be longing for, Hugo knows it will never end well. Nina, that man. Yes, he is my grandfather, the one I asked you to watch over. I know this is hard to believe, but Nina draws something from her pocket. It's an old picture of a handsome man with slicked back hair, wearing the finest of suits. The gentleman in the picture has a different air to him, one of wealth and power, none of which reflects at all the current Henry Mortimer. It's almost as if looking at two different people. This isn't much to go on, but believe me, they are the same person. Then why does he look so young? It happened a few nights ago. I was on my way to get a cup of water when I heard a loud thud coming from my grandfather's room. I was worried that something fell over, so I went to go check. When I opened the door, I found him collapsed on the ground. I rushed to help him up. When I did, he looked so different. He wore the same clothes that my grandpa wore that night. And his face, I recognized his face. He looked younger. So many things were rushing through my head at that moment, and yet I knew he felt familiar to me. I know it sounds bizarre the more I talk about it, but that's what happened. That was also the very same night I found the letter. It was next to him, already opened. I'm sorry again for all of this. No matter who I went to, they either said something was wrong with me or my family. With everything going on, maybe they're right. The pools of water, the letters, Lewis, and now this. I've been ignoring the signs for years and just blindly hoping things could get better if I tried finding solutions on my own. But that's not enough anymore. Maybe my family really is good. No, they're not. Curses aren't real. Detective? I think we get easily involved in believing that sort of thing exists. In truth, the ones who fixate on it make it their reality. Rumors, doubts, lies, all of those things are what they want to become real. Deep-rooted emotions like that can't possibly be healed or fixed right away. But like a curse, these emotions drag other people down with them. Personally, I think you were caught up in all of this, but I assure you, We'll see this through. For you and Mr. Mortimer. Th- Thank you. Good. Now, our first priority is to find out more about Lewis. Nina, the letter you showed us back at the agency, do you have it with you? Yes, it's here. Do you mind if I borrow it for a bit? I'll be sure to give it back. Of course, but what are you going to do with it? I've searched everything in the letter, and I still haven't come up with clues. I'll be using it for a reference, or guide if you will. I'm afraid I can't discuss too much of the process, trade secret and all. Of course. I'll go check upstairs. Noah and Kobe, check the ground floor. Got it. Before they leave to do their own investigations, Hugo grabs a hold of Noah's shoulder and leans in close enough for Nina not to hear. Keep a close eye on Mr. Mortimer and Nina, especially Nina. I don't want her to be dragged any more than she already is, so whatever happens, keep her safe. Hugo, you... Fine, but remember, yell for me, okay? I know. Thank you, Noah. I'm counting on you. You too, boy. With a final nod, Hugo goes towards the staircase and then heads upstairs. Noah stares for a moment longer at Hugo's back before he disappears onto the first floor. He turns to look back at Kobe. Well, it's time to go. We have work to do. Right, Kobe? Investigation start. The objective is to look around the area for objects to precede the story. Use the arrow keys to move to different areas. Outlines will appear on a clickable object. On the top right is a hint button to see if you missed an object. Ooh, interesting. So we're gonna have an actual investigation scene. Let's start by investigating Mr. Mortimer. Mr. Mortimer still sits motionless by the corner of the room, his gaze never leaving the rain. Can I investigate, Kobe? Woof woof. Interesting. I'm gonna close the menu. Phone? An old rotary dial phone. It looks like it's still in good use. A delicate arrangement of violets and white roses. They appear to be fresh and fairly new. A large book sounds close to the entranceway. It contains a couple of photo albums and a few phone books. Can I look at anything else? No? Hi, Gobi. Frames decorating the walls are covered in white sheets, veiled with a thin lining of dust on the top of each one. Wow, there are so many paintings covering the walls. Are there more like this all over the house? Yes, my grandfather commissioned many back in the day, but sadly he doesn't do that anymore. Nina, I can't help but notice the paintings are covered. How come? I did that. I covered them for grandfather's sake. For his sake? Yes, he was pretty obsessed with them, you see. There were times when he would mutter to himself and would just stare at the paintings for days on end. It worried me so much that I had to cover them all. Since he hasn't stared at any of them, he just sits quietly looking outside. I see. About these paintings, I noticed they all have a similar theme. They all had water in them. I know this isn't a coincidence since you told us before, but if there's anything you know, anything at all, please tell me. Noah, can I ask you a question first? Sure. Go ahead. Do you believe in mermaids? Mermaids? I don't suppose I do. Why? Casting her gaze to the floor, Nina anxiously fidgets tightly, clasps her hands together, and then briefly sighs and continues. Well, there's this story, or rather like a fairy tale, that my family passed down. A fairy tale? Yes, well, it feels like one to me. It was about a fisherman who fell in love with a mermaid. Every day and night, he would go out by the shore to gaze at her beauty, but one day she vanished, leaving him confused and heartbroken. Determined, he would sail many seas for a chance to see her again. Sailing from coast to coast, new lands beyond and back, he would go. Not long after, fortune followed him throughout his journey, and he made him one of the wealthiest and most highly respected men in his village. However, despite all the wealth he gained through his travels, he never found the mermaid again. She would only be a dream, nothing more. And that's the end of the story. It doesn't end happily, but I guess that's a lesson behind all of it. I just never understood it. What do you think happened to the mermaid? I know it's an exaggeration, and yet I can't help but wonder. Mm, it's hard to say. I feel bad for both of them. To be honest with you, I'm not a fan of sad endings. If it were me, I would wish for the fisherman and the mermaid could see each other again. Or at least, that's what I think. Even if they weren't meant to be with each other? Yeah, I think so at least. I wouldn't want to imagine going through a journey all by myself. It's hard being alone. A journey all by yourself. Mortimer Estate, 11:30 p.m. I'm going to take a second pause here. The headphone battery that I'm using is dying, and it's also connected to my microphone. It should only take me a second, and then we'll continue. I apologize, I'm back now. After searching vigorously through each of the rooms, he knew his findings would eventually lead him here. This is it. Hugo walks towards the nearest lampshade and switches it on. Dimly illuminated, he sees the extent of how lavish this part of the house is. From the customized window drapes to the vintage furnishings, everything here extrudes that extravagance. But much like the interior Hugo has seen so far, he finds this one in particular reeks of it. Plastered from wall to wall, a gloom lingers. It's as if the room itself is molding, despite its preserved nature. The chest, obviously. A classic wooden chest lies at the foot of the canopy bed. Its lock still firmly holds, safeguarding whatever is inside. Interesting. I'm gonna make another save here real quick. There's a paper scattered around. Can I click on the papers? Scattered papers, all forgotten, lay in waiting on the cold floor. Heavily etched markings are found scrawled over the papers. A leather-bound journal rests on the edge of the table, its pages all torn out so haphazardly that the binding itself is starting to fall out. An old photo of a lost time, a sweet summertime memory of a little girl with her beloved grandfather. Oh, interesting. Atop the fireplace, unembellished and unmarked by time, hangs a curious and familiar painting of a beautiful woman floating on the water. A pristine pearl-white tea set patiently, untouched and unused for quite some time. Um, A meticulously organized set of academy books ranging from non-fiction to geography are all on display. However, hidden away by the vast collection are some children's fairy tales, all carefully kept. I need to hurry. I don't want to stay here for too long. Mortimer Estate, 11:50 p.m. He searches and searches, and still no sign of Lewis. To Hugo, even if there is a fragment, a singular thread to that person, to their real selves, he could find them. But there is nothing. Not one thing pertaining to him. It's as though Lewis barely exists at all. What is going on? I clearly sensed that presence from before, but it's gone again. Damn it, I wish I had more time. No, calm down. It has to be here. I just need to focus. He ponders again, retracing every step, every little detail, hoping that he overlooks something. Yet, all he knows is that one tangible thing that connects him, that tethers him so close to the space, and most of all to Henry, is the letter. Words of promise, of love, all too delicately etched onto the page, but tainted with a powerful dark emotion that has been festering for too long. Tainted. From the start of all of this, Hugo believed that whoever Lewis was, they were the ones responsible. He thought he could find them and convince them to stop their haunting for good, to bring peace and move on. However, that isn't the case anymore. The unnatural force that binds everyone so closely together in this family is not the cause of an angry spirit. No, it's something far more devious. As he takes the letter out of the envelope, he notices a change within, bearing no foreboding threat at the bottom of the page. It looks just like a regular letter, or rather, what it was, a sad and tragic love. If you can't come, then I understand. Things have gotten more complicated with your mother ever since she found out about us, right? I'm sorry, Henry, for everything. It hurts to see you so torn up like this. I would never hurt you or drag you along with me. If this is to be our farewell, then can I ask one last favor? Can you keep my locket? I know this is selfish of me, but I'd like for you to have it. I'd be happy to know it's safe with you. My heart will forever be yours, Henry. With love, always, Lewis. So this was the true letter. A small warmth emanates from the paper, wrapping closely around his fingers, quite soothing. The fragment Hugo was searching for. Lewis, I'm sorry. You were also a victim in all of this too. Please, if you can hear me, I need your help. Without warning, the sound of a click can be heard across the bedroom, as if something unlocked itself. Hugo turns his head towards the sound and sees the chest. Unlike the other furniture, its dark and rustic features had not been maintained well, left to rot in its own. Suddenly, he stops, the sound of a voice, a sweet voice, whispering to him, beckoning him towards the fireplace. Come here, my sweet boy. We'll make a save. I'm gonna go towards the painting, because I want to know what happens. There, mounted by the fireplace, is a painting of a beautiful woman floating on the water, her pale skin incandescent, brilliantly prominent against the contrast to the dark murky waters that keep her hidden. Her bound to the campus. Hugo stares intensely at the picture. His emphatic sorrow swells within him, disarming his senses and forcing him to inch closer, surrendering himself to the sweet song. Poor thing, how lonely you must feel. You are a lot like him, like Henry. Hugo approaches closer to the painting, and his mind screams to run as he sees it. He can finally see beyond the facade, the lady portrait, for what the painting truly is. But don't worry, I can take away that sadness. A deformed creature, a mermaid, floats above the surface. The voice whispers. Large, hollow eyes stare back, boring into his. Her skin is melting, bleeding heavily, this black ichor that gushes from the canvas. Some of it starts to hit not only the floor, but Hugo as well. The black viscous tar clings persistently onto him, unrelentless as they continue to pile up, and he feels it. What drew him initially to this thing, a deep sense of longing rushes through him, snuffing out what little control he had left, finally embracing his nature to come home. Take my hand. Without hesitation, Hugo reaches his hand out, while his body leans closer to the mermaid. She grabs and pulls him in. Not once looking back, he dives and follows after her, returning to nothing. Bad end beyond the painting. Interesting. No, stay focused, Hugo. I won't let it get to me. Preparing himself, he heads towards the chest and opens it. Inside, scrambled together, are bunches of notebooks and small trinkets. Hugo continues to rummage through when he stumbles across an old newspaper article. Young man found dead by the lake. An unidentified young man was found on the morning of XXXXXXXXX, 3 days prior to his death, according to the police. Ruled as a suicide, police have claimed that the troubled youth drowned himself. This certainly is a tragic loss, an unforgettable event indeed. XXXX comments. No claim of his body has been made yet. Lewis. By the corner of Hugo's eyes, he spots a bright glint buried beneath the clutter. He reaches for it. A locket of brilliant gold shines embellished, retaining a timeless luster. Inside it safeguards a picture of a young man with glasses smiling brightly. This must be the locket that he was talking about. It's so pretty. I'm surprised it still shines like this. And this picture, did he put it in here? No, it might have been Henley. But why would he store it away like this? What should I do? Obviously, we should leave the locket, but we're gonna take it this time. I should probably hold on to this for now. Take it to him, please. Lewis? A gentle but distant plea echoes in Hugo's heart. A forgotten ache of yearning and regret grips him deeply. Feeling not his own start to rise, like small ripples on a pond. Wanting to be found again, remembered. Don't worry, I'll bring it to him. I'll make sure of it. Hugo is about to put everything back into the chest when he feels a wet and cold sensation crawling up his leg. What? Water. A pool of water relentlessly spreads across the floor, seeping into the chest. Damn it, no! Suddenly, the light shut off. A scream is heard, followed by a madrid of shouts. Hugo is about to call out to Noah, but stops at the sight of pale feet before him. Looming over him stands a tall, ominous figure. His face is shrouded in complete darkness, devoid of any human emotion. It appears to be a young man, but Hugo knows that it's far from it. No, that very thing is trying to imitate a human form, trying to be human. Hugo could only stare back. Paralyzed with fear, he's forced to watch the horror as it slowly creeps towards him. It's just like before, the sensation of someone staring at him from within, but this time it's drawing nearer, inching so closer. The words to call out to Kobe or Noah fail to reach. Lodged in his throat, he struggles in pain. With his breathing shallow, he tries to force his body to move. And then it stops. Looking down at Hugo, filled with nothing but malice and contempt, it speaks. Don't get in my way. All of a sudden, the bedroom door slams shut and the entity disappears. Tension from the body finally releases its agonizing grip as he desperately gasps for air. His vision blurs and his breathing is haggard as he staggers towards the door. He yanks the handle several times, but it's tightly jammed. Fuck! Noah! Kobe! To his own dismay, he is greeted with silence at the other end of the door. Damn it! From a distance, he faintly hears the sound of Kobe's relentless barking as it gets farther away from the house. Hugo rushes towards the window. He tries to pry it open, but just like the door, heavy force prevents him from doing so. Like being underwater, his movement is slowly drawn out, as if being dragged down by that thing. Fuck this! Frantically looking around the room, he spots a nearby chair. Without a moment sooner, Hugo grabs the chair and starts to strike the window. Bit by bit, the window cracks, getting larger and larger, splintering off pieces. What the hell is this thing made out of? Still trying to catch his breath, he musters all his strength for the final blow. Damn you! Just break already! Clearing out the remaining glass shards, Hugo peers out to see any railing can be grabbed a hold of. However, he discovers instead that the wall adjacent is covered in ivy. Despite how heavy the rain has drastically become, he reaches out, grabbing for a handful of vines. Carefully, he climbs out of the window, gripping it tightly, and making sure he doesn't lose his footing. Yet, to his luck, the patch of vines he clutches to starts to tear away from the wall. Out of desperation, he struggles to find his grip on another, but fails when his hand slips out of reach. Shit! Clamoring wildly, he loses his grip on the ivy. He crash lands down onto a thicket of bushes. Air forced out of him, he heaves uncontrollably, trying to even out his breathing. But even that is a lapsurous. An immense amount of pain spreads throughout his body. God, I'm getting too old for this. Although his body screams out in pain, he forces himself up. There's still time. I can do this. I have to do this. With staggering feet and haggard breathing, he makes his way to the place where it all started. To the lake, where this tragedy starts and ends. Lake. Finally entering through the park, Hugo calls out to Kobe and Noah. Kobe! Noah! Where are you? He hears faintly sounds of barking and echoes of people yelling in the distance. He rushes towards the echoes, guiding him through the downpour. With his heart racing and his blood rushing to his head, he finds his way to the lake. Drawing closer, he sees Nina giving chase to her grandfather. Unfortunately, she doesn't get too far as Noah stops her. Grandpa! Stop! Grandpa! Let me go! My grandpa, he's... No, Nina, it's dangerous. You'll get hurt too. I don't care. I don't want to lose anyone anymore. It's in that instant that Hugo trudges against the water, pursuing Nina instead. Hugo? No, don't! Pleas fall into deaf ears. Not even the whines and worries of his partner could make him turn back. Determined, he forges ahead. Nearing the deep end of the lake, he sees Henry Mortimer staring directly into the abyss. He looks even more frail and disheveled than before. It's as if all his life he's lived up until this point has begun to fray, draining every ounce of himself and surrendering it all to the lake. Before Henry could lean in, Hugo reaches out and tugs his arm. Mr. Mortimer, listen to me. Nothing is waiting for you down there, so please, come back to shore with me. Motionless and unresponsive, he stares deeply into the water. The haze over his eyes still obscure and persistent. There's so many things we cannot afford to lose in our lives, and you're one of them. To Nina, you're all she has left. She needs you, Mr. Mortimer. Hugo felt a slight jolt from Henley's arm, as if stirred by the mention of Nina. He slowly turns to face Hugo. Nina. However, just as cruel and violent as a storm, Henley jerks back, wrenching his arm away from Hugo's. No, this is all my fault. If only I'd gotten to Lewis sooner, then none of this would have happened. He was waiting for me. He was patient with me. And yet, for all the things he's done, I chose my family over him. He's gone because I didn't pick him. Henry backs away from the shoreline. Mr. Mortimer! His manic eyes never straying away from Hugo as he keeps his distance from him. Lewis, I'm sorry. I was the one who dragged you into all of this. You deserved so much more, and I wished Henry struggles over his words. He clasps tightly to his shirt, his throat dry and taut from all he had bottled up, from those repressed and silent years of waiting for the curse to finally take him. I wish I'd gone with you that night, Lewis. Sir, even if you still covet that wish, it wouldn't resolve anything. Not for you or Lewis. I read what you wrote those years ago. He understood if you didn't want to come see him. But the thing is, Mr. Mortimer, Lewis never thought anything less of you. He said so in his letters. His letters? For the longest time, I wanted to believe that he hated me for that. He resented me for that choice. Or at least, I thought it was easier for me to think that way. How long has it been since I last talked about him? It's been too long, sir. But that's why you don't have to shoulder all that pain by yourself anymore. We can talk about it. About you, about Lewis, all of it together. Hugo extends not only his hand to him, but a promise that Henry had yearned for so long, a way to forgive himself. He hesitates at first. What fool believes in a deserved forgiveness? Such a thing didn't exist. And yet, everything. Hugo still reaches out for him, to a stranger. Maybe he can be forgiven. He was just about to reach out for Hugo, when a hand slithers around Henry's instead. Its arms unnaturally contort around him, while its head perches on his shoulder. This thing, this Lewis, is no longer pretending to be human. With piercing cold green eyes, it glares directly at Hugo, mocking him, cursing him, wishing nothing but despair. We can't be saved. We can't be forgiven. There is only one true way out of this. I will share with you the most happiest of endings. Before Hugo could reach out for Henry's hand, he disappears into the water. Mr. Mortimer! Without hearing the anguished cries and desperate pleas, Hugo dives after him into the abyss. Plunging into the icy waters, Hugo feels shock running rampant through his body, like spikes continuously piercing from his legs to the tips of his fingers. Fiercely and unyielding, his chest tightens and his heart aches as he begins to kick his legs, hoping whichever way he goes he'll find Henry. Swimming deeper and deeper in, he sees faintly a figure slowly descending into the darkness. As he finally gets closer to Henry, long snake-like arms stretch out across the void and grab Hugo's neck, violently squeezing all the air out of him. He tries desperately to wrench the hands away, but with each struggle, Hugo's movements begin to weigh heavier and heavier. Lewis! Where are you, Lewis? It's looking for Lewis. Digging deep into his coat pocket, he grasps tightly in his hands the locket that Henry kept and had long forgotten. Holding it out, it shines ever so brightly in the dark. There you are. It releases its grip on Hugo and instead reaches for the locket. Taking this chance, he drops the chain and kicks with all his might to grab Henry's arm. With his heart and his body screaming in pain, he swims desperately to the surface. Almost there. I just have to. As the light shines from the surface begins to blur, Hugo makes one last attempt to reach from it. With his limbs worn out and his energy spent, this is all he can do. Before he loses consciousness, then he knows the figure swimming towards them, getting closer, and then everything fades to black. Drifting along with what feels like an endless sea, Hugo courses wave after wave, not knowing where he is going or caring for the matter. All he knows is that he is very, very tired. How long has it been since he had gotten a good night's rest? Uh, it's been too long. Maybe I should take a rest now. I'd like that so much. I agree. You deserve it, but not here. I'm sorry for startling you. I just wanted to see you one last time before I go. Lewis, you've done so much for me and Henry. I can't thank you enough. No worries. I wanted to thank you for watching over me. Also, I wanted to apologize for my remarks before. I really thought that I had figured things out once before I found you, but you know how that turned out for me. It's alright, really. After all this time, I didn't think anyone could hear me, especially you, Henry. Lewis, I was worried about him for a long time. He always wanted to keep me away from his personal struggles, to keep me safe from them, but I was too stubborn for my own good. Honestly, I don't regret it, any of it. Even if I could no longer reach out to Henry, fate weaved its thread back to you, our tangent connecting us once more to this very moment, and for that, I am forever grateful to you, Hugo. You're welcome, Lewis. From a far-off distance, Hugo hears crying out to him, beckoning him to return once more. Well, they're waiting for you. I guess they really are, huh? Take care, Hugo. You too, Lewis. With his eyes closed and his senses returning, he feels the constant tugs and licks of a certain bloodhound, whining as he tries to wake his partner. Hugo! He hears another familiar voice, too annoyingly close for comfort. His eyes shot open and he jerks right up. Confused, Hugo looks around before he coughs up the remaining water in his lungs. Are you alright? Noah starts to pat his back while Kobe continues to whine over Hugo. What happened? Where's Mr. Mortimer? He's safe, and so is Nina. They're both okay. The police and the ambulance should be arriving soon. Thank goodness. There isn't more you have to say to me. Instead of thank goodness, I swear, you don't listen to a damn word I say. I'm sorry, Noah. Exhausted, he let out a sigh, and then continues to pat Hugo's back, aggressively, when someone approaches them. Detective Lauren. Oh, Nina. There's someone I want you to meet. Behind her stands an elderly man, frail in stature. Timidly looks to the side, pensively, and ponders to himself. Although his youth has long faded, his eyes are what catches Hugo's attention. They are no longer piercing and vicious green, only eyes just like Nina's. Hello, Mr. Mortimer. Detective. I never got the chance to say goodbye to him. I always thought about it every day. What if Lewis lived on in this world? What if he stayed with me a little longer? It is because of that constant mindset I dragged everyone down and kept hurting not only me, but Nina especially. I was the one who kept hurting her, the one to blame for all of this. But someone that I've never met still went out of their way to save me, not knowing the burdens or my faults. Thank you. Hugo reaches out to Henry and smiles brightly. It's my pleasure, sir. But before he lets go, Henry tugs at Hugo's hand once more. I hope that someday, you too will overcome it. The next day. Well, good morning, Hugo. You're up bright and early. Morning. With much vigor and haste, Hugo resumes writing in his notepad. Although, by closer inspection, he looks like he is going to combust any minute. Are you writing up a report? Without looking up, Hugo responds back. Yeah, for the most part. You still need to write yours, too. I will. But I haven't had breakfast yet, and I don't like eating by myself. Let me guess. Two's better than one? Bingo. Wow, Hugo, you're really catching on. I'm so proud of you. Ah, shut up, will you? I swear, if only I hadn't fallen off from the goddamn window, maybe my report would have been shorter. Before Noah could begin to cut the bacon, he pauses at the mention of Hugo's report. Oh, yeah, by the way, mind telling me what happened to Mr. Mortimer's window? Um, I broke it. Well, that's obvious to me. What I don't understand is, why is it broken? Do you know how much it costs to repair a window like that? I know, it was really dumb of me, I'm sorry. Besides, I told Mr. Mortimer about it before we left. Honestly, I was expecting an earful from him. And also the bill. And? Surprisingly enough, he said it was okay. Oh, lucky us, right? So what? You just called it a day after that? Thank you so much, Mr. Mortimer. You broke it, you pay for it. Would you chill? Of course I'll pay for it. But each time I kept insisting, he shrugged it off. He said that we already went through a lot for them, so this was nothing in comparison. Ugh. You know what? He's right. After all we went through, we deserve a nap at least. But before we could walk away, he stops and sees a familiar person walking towards the storefront, carrying something with her. Ah, good morning, you two. Just barely a foot through the door, a certain bloodhound stirs from its resting spot and makes its way towards Nina, tail uncontrollably wagging. Ah, good morning to you too, Kobe. Nina scratches behind Kobe's ears, making his right foot unconsciously move on its own, scratching an invisible but desirable spot for him. Good morning, Nina. Morning. What brings you here this time around? Is everything alright with your grandfather? Ah, yes, he's doing pretty well. Even better than before. We talked so much last night that I hardly slept at all. But honestly, it's been a while since I spoke to him so freely like that. I hardly felt tired at all. That's wonderful to hear. Ah, but there's something else I wanted to ask the both of you. To be put bluntly, I need your help. The two of you aren't busy. I would like some company eating these. Inside a clear plastic bag are two boxes placed on top of one another. She opens one box and reveals a colorful array of decorated donuts that are aligned perfectly. No cramped or squished spaces. A work of art in Hugo's eyes. Wow, so pretty! Donuts! They look so delicious! We are more than happy to eat these with you, Nina. There he goes again with his donuts. Ah, yes. Please join us, Nina. We're about to have breakfast too. Weren't we, Kuya? Always so brazen in front of others. You do make it exceptionally easy for me. Ugh. You both have such great chemistry with each other. On second thought, I'm way too tired for this. I'm going to have to apologize in advance, Nina, but truthfully, I've been running on last night's coffee and I'm about to pass out in a minute now. Ah, no worries. I think I need a little break time. It sounds like we all need right now. Thanks. Hugo puts down his pet and proceeds for the couch. Kobe follows after him. Would you like to join us, Nina? I would love to. I guess we'll save these for later then. Yes, please do. Now come on, it's nap time. Noah sighs heavily before setting down the food in the desk. Then he gestures towards the sofa for Nina and him to take. She happily takes the offer and joins them. I'm getting too old. I mean, you are old. Shut it. This is really nice. Aw, good boy, Kobe. Come here. Nina coos at him and begins to scratch the back of Kobe's ears once more. Hugo leans a bit closer to Noah, his voice just above a whisper, but close enough for Noah only to hear him. You know, I'm glad you came along yesterday. Oh, what's this? You getting chummy with me now? Call it chummy or whatever, but I really mean it. If you hadn't saved us back there... Look, I told you before. I'll be there whenever you get yourself new reckless. Besides, didn't you say this was nap time? Get some rest. You deserve it. You too. A calming silence fills the room as they bask under the morning glow. No big parties or celebrations. Just each other's company and sharing this small reward and a small warm comfort. Good end. Case closed. I'm not quite gonna end things there though, because I want to know what happens if we leave the locket. I think it's best to put it back for now. Hugo hears a distant and faint cry call out to him, pleading him to take the locket with him. Lewis, he was about to put everything back when he feels a wet, cold sensation crawling up his leg. Water. A pool of water restlessly spreads across the floor, already seeping into the chest. Damn it, no! Suddenly the lights shut off. A scream is heard, followed by a madrid of shouts. He was about to call to Noah. Looming over him stands a tall, ominous figure. So, is all of this going to be the same? I'm going to skip ahead to a point where things are hopefully different. So, break the window. Attempt to climb down and fall. Go to the water. Into the water. Let's share this happy ending together. He feels nothing, his body weightless and floating for who knows how long. It's cold, so very, very cold. How long has it been since he felt this? This empty feeling of not being here or anywhere. It's comforting, nostalgic, or maybe this isn't so bad after all. I think this is for the best. Oh no, it's far, far from over, Hugo. After all, you said it yourself. Seeing the things you do come with a price, and oh, what a hefty price has been paid for your stupid little blunder. So get up, Hugo. We are far from having a happy ending. Hugo! Hugo's eyes shot open, his vision disoriented and blurred. And as he tries to focus on Noah's voice, a violent tide bursts from him as he coughs out the remaining water from his lungs. He can feel Noah's hands rub against his back, anchoring him, checking to see if he's alright. But deep down, there's something far more concerning to worry about this moment. Where's Mortimer? I'm sorry, Hugo. I tried going back to the water after I fetched you, but the paramedics stopped me. They told me it was too cold and dangerous to head back in. No, it can't be. I'm sorry, Hugo. No, please, God, no! He couldn't hear the rest of it. His body trembled as his hands clasped tightly together in a fervent prayer, wishing for a miracle to happen before them, to have Mr. Mortimer return to them, finally safe from harm. But for this silent wish, this is a small and glaringly impossible wish, no one would answer. There was no kindness in the sunrise, only the gut-wrenching wails of a woman by the shore pleading to any god to save her grandfather. But no matter how many would try to search the water, they wouldn't be able to find him. There was no one left to save anymore, just a washed-up, forgotten tale of a man and his mermaid. Hugo tries to stifle his cries, to soothe the lump lodged deeply in his throat as he hears it. A laugh, a cruel and heartless laugh echoes from the lake, mocking him, cursing him. A hollow and merciless victory for this curse. A curse. It was a curse after all. Bad end. A mermaid's tale. Well, I believe that will be all endings for this game. There's still achievements to be had, interestingly enough, but we've gotten every choice that I could see within this game, so I'm going to end things here. Thank you so much for watching if you did, and if you would like to hear more narrations of some visual novels or maybe in some more investigation type games, leave a comment down below and click the like button, subscribe. Anyway, later for now.